It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. Council Bluffs City Council has not passed a moratorium on data center projects. And what does international food aid programs look like under the second Trump administration? It's Friday, June 19th. Happy Juneteenth. Senator Joni Ernst says the Trump administration needs to meet with Congress to explain the terms of a deal ending the war with Iran. Here's IPR's Isabella Liu.
The initial deal declares an end to military operations on all fronts and ends a U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. It also paves a way to lift all sanctions on Iran on an unspecified timeline. Ernst, a military veteran, says she's asked the administration to brief Congress on the early agreement. She says Congress members need to be able to see how the agreement protects the U.S. and allies.
If there is an agreement, we must be able to verify it, and we must be able to ensure that we can permanently prevent them obtaining the means to that nuclear weapon.
The framework also creates a $300 billion fund for reconstruction in Iran, which Reuters reports will be from private sector funds. Ernst is not seeking re-election this fall. I'm Isabella Liu, IPR News.
The Council Bluffs City Council has rejected a year-long pause on approving data center projects within city limits. Council Bluffs Mayor Jill Shudock proposed a 12-month moratorium after meeting with city staff. She says the pause would have given city officials time to update city regulations for data centers and address issues like the capacity of the city's sewer system. Council Bluffs Public Works Director Matt Cox says the city is an attractive spot for data center development because the Missouri River is the city's water source.
They've looked all over the country and they said, oh, they have something that we can use. Let's go there. So when we get a request, it's not for 100,000 gallons a day. It's for 1 million gallons a day or 2 million gallons a day. Mm-hmm. And so it only takes one or two big projects and we're at capacity.
Cox estimates that amount of water draining from a data center is roughly equal to the amount of wastewater that comes from about 4,000 homes. He says it would be helpful to have uniform guidelines because there are aggressive timelines when developers file for data center permits. Several council members said issues could be sorted out on a case-by-case basis during negotiations with developers and businesses. There's a new coalition of community leaders and healthcare professionals that want to make a cancer plan for Polk County. Here's more about it from IPR's Mara Curran.
The Polk County Health Department is in the early stages of its Polk County Cancer Coalition, which aims to reduce the effects of cancer in the county. Next month, the coalition will break off into focus groups that will work on increasing access to prevention, early detection, and after-cancer care. Julianne Van Loo with the Health Department says they'll draw from Iowa's state cancer plan. She says they're looking at existing solutions like radon testing in homes.
The answers are there for a lot of these areas. It's just figuring out what are we going to prioritize and what are we going to kind of rally around and try to give resources to as a focus for us in Polk County.
Van Loo says they hope to have a finalized cancer plan in January that will help them improve access to resources in Polk County. I'm Mara Curran, IPR News.
Scientists are working toward creating devices that would let farmers track nutrient levels in their fields remotely. They're using graphene. It's sheets of incredibly thin carbon to make an ink they can print onto sensors to detect phosphate. Suprem Das is a physicist and professor at Kansas State University.
So right now this fundamental sensor is working, and then we have to integrate that to existing electronics and send the data to your server and cloud.
This could help farmers know when to apply fertilizer, and it could prevent them from over-applying, which could save them money and reduce water pollution. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. A federal program under fire from the Trump administration has bought and shipped American grain to the world's hungry for 7 decades. But the fight to save food for peace raises a fundamental question about the focus of U.S. international food aid. We're going to take a deeper dive in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's here first from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. U.S. international food aid programs have been through the ringer in the second Trump administration. One of those programs, Food for Peace, lost funding and then was revived under the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The latest version of the Farm Bill would permanently place Food for Peace at the USDA. But as Harvest Public Media's Frank Morris reports, some don't think the agency is the right place for an international humanitarian aid program.
The idea at the heart of Food for Peace came from a Kansas farmer more than 70 years ago, and it still has lots of support in wheat country.
It helps poorer people in the world that aren't able to produce what they need. And the other thing is it allows us to sell some of our crops that normally we wouldn't have a market for.
Merrill Nielsen, who farms near Denmark, Kansas, says the program's helped to keep him in business for half a century. But President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency gutted it early last year.
It was a blow to us because the market realized, and these crops, whether it was wheat or milo, were going to be stored somewhere and be hanging over the market, which lowered the price of our crop that we could sell.
It also stopped aid shipments to millions of desperately hungry people. Within days, farm state politicians like Kansas Senator Jerry Moran, a Republican, and Kansas Congresswoman Sharice Davids, a Democrat, launched an effort to revive the program.
Food for Peace doesn't just support the folks who need the food. Yes, it does that, absolutely. And Kansas farmers are proud of that legacy. But it also helps keep our farmers' products in demand.
Lawmakers managed to restart Food for Peace at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The agency has begun buying farm commodities again and recently announced it was shipping 20,000 metric tons of grain to East Africa this summer. But Dina Esposito, who led Food for Peace for 6 years, says there's a catch.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture, it's important to understand, has no humanitarian mandate. It has no humanitarian experts to determine how best to direct the food to save the most amount of lives, to monitor the programs in hunger hotspots.
Esposito says the USDA seems to be shortchanging the life-saving stuff in favor of helping farmers. Under USDA, all food assistance provided by Food for Peace must be grown in the United States. That maxes the benefits to farmers, but makes aid less efficient. Sometimes it makes more sense to buy from regional farmers or just send money. And Esposito says there's less at stake for farmers now. Food aid programs once accounted for about 30% of U.S. farm exports, she says. Now that number is less than 2%.
While it doesn't have a huge impact on farmers, the way the program is just done and where the food goes is absolutely critical. It is a lifeline for a hungry child in a refugee camp or in a war zone. And that assistance is the difference between life and death for that child.
But ag industry support could mean the difference between life and death for Food for Peace. The Trump administration tried to kill it once, and the proposed White House budget would zero it out again. Food for Peace has powerful farm state allies, like Senator Moran. He's committed to preserving funding for the program in the face of White House opposition, and his push to place Food for Peace under the USDA permanently has already passed the House. Kansas Wheat Commission President Chris Tanner is squarely behind moving Food for Peace to USDA, but he knows the agency's got a big job to do under heavy scrutiny.
So I think they're on a short leash right now, in the fact that, they have a couple years to make sure that they have the staff and the way to implement it that is effective. And I hope that they do it well and do it right. That way it becomes secure, something that both farmers and those in need can count on.
Because if they screw this up, some U.S. farmers will lose money, and some of the world's most desperate people could lose their lives. For Harvest Public Media, I'm Frank Morris.
Harvest Public Media is a collab of public media newsrooms in the Midwest and Great Plains, including IPR News, covering agriculture, food systems, and rural life. I'm Megan McKenney. Thanks for taking the time to listen to Hear First from IPR. I hope you've had a great week. Have a great weekend. Talk on Monday.